Space Station 13. A very silly game. It's been a while now since I've actually played it. I suppose at this point it's officially behind me, but every now and then I debate reinstalling Beyond and allowing the mess back onto my machine. For those of you who don't know what it is, Space Station 13 is a game built on a fairly obscure codebase called Beyond. The premise of it is fairly simple. You are on a station owned by nanotracing, and you must do your job, or complete your objective, to the best of your ability. Technically it's a role-playing game, though some servers don't require it at all, but others will demand you stay in character to an nth degree. Of course, as these things tend to do, things go wrong on station, and the crew must react accordingly. What accordingly tends to be up to the individual player. Some will fight against enemy threats, some will just completely ignore it to continue their jobs, and even more will either be or be aiding the threats themselves. From assistant to captain, janitor to head of security, there's a variety of roles to play and all come with different perks and disadvantages. The culture of SS-13 is a melting pot of ideas, and wouldn't it be cool if X was there? This means that you'll get things such as literally the xenomorphs from Aliens, to more subtle references such as the engineering suits being based off of the Dead space armour. Sounds interesting? Want to give it a shot? Nope, bad idea. Hey, you close that Google search tab right now. Bet you even spelled Beyond wrong. Whilst the game can be fun, I can't even begin to recommend it. Let me explain why though. My time with the game started with a friend relaying stories of his rounds to me. Every round or shift is different, and you can play a different job each time. He tended to play security or science, and had a plethora of stories of fantastic traitor rounds, to times he completely decimated the traitors themselves, or even one time he actually managed to convince the new cops to let him travel with them. He also kept telling me that I should give it a try. At the time, I was too busy with university to really play anything at all, so once I was out and a few months had passed, I found myself in a part of the world with awful internet, and one of the only games that would actually play on this internet was Space Station 13. And so I jokingly made a terrible character named Jeanette Ikari and began playing my first round, where the friend who was helping me learn the game was a traitor, who had a kill objective. And guess who the target was?
Welcome to the station, crew. Enjoy your stay.
Time went on, and I slowly grew better and better at the game. One of my proudest moments was robusting, or fighting, a traitor when they had previously disabled me with an e-bow. And I was using a touchpad, on a laptop, that was falling apart. Other notable moments included the time I was a captain with all of the changelings working for me as bodyguards in exchange for not eating me, an HOP traitor round where I managed to convince everyone that the captain was a traitor and had attacked me before I took a valuable item from him, faked my death in engineering and escaped from the pod without anyone even noticing, and a particularly harrowing round as chaplain, where aliens had invaded the station and my chapel was the last safe bastion. Oh, and the cult of Dwayne, but that's a story for another time. For a while I stuck to TG, but eventually my friends and I moved to Hippie Station. This is where things became more interesting. After a while of playing on this more intense, I'm gonna go with intense station, I applied to be an admin on the old defunct forums. Whoops. I then found the new forums, copy-pasted my application with the needed changes over, and surprisingly enough got accepted after some monitoring. Initially I was nervous, way too nervous for a goddamn spaceman game where you can fart off your own arse and beat someone to death with it. Eventually, I fell into it just fine though. With some help from the team, I got used to the slew of bullshit ban excuses people tend to feed. Now, full disclosure, I was hardly flawless. A few times, I just completely messed up and banned the wrong person. And to begin with, I was quite cold with people until I was certain I had the facts straight. Sometimes, I even took things a little bit too seriously myself. I'm only human, but somehow I made enough of an impression after a while to get a small promotion to Game Master. Now, personally, I tried to focus on community managing. Interpersonal politics is something that I've been told I'm good at, so I applied that skill to the user base. Listened to their concern, had them discussed amongst the staff base, so on and so forth. Eventually though, despite how fun it had been, things started to turn sour. Now, I'm not the kind of person to use this rhetoric, but there were some members of the community, not in the administrative team as far as I know, that did not like the fact that I am in fact female. I tried my best not to mention my gender, and in fact when people did, I would just try and deflect it best I could. But with the team speak, and with people from the admin team nicknaming me Space Mum, and then using that in OOC, it was hardly a secret. This led to some people believing that my position on team was only granted because the man in charge, Admiral Hippie, had slept with me, or that I was his girlfriend, or a slew of complete ridiculousness that ended up becoming something of an in-joke. Blow it from the inside. More worrisome, however, was the fact that certain members of the team revealed themselves to be manipulative and have ulterior motives. If you follow anything to do with Space Station 13, you'll know all about it, and to be honest, I don't want to talk huge amounts of details on this. For a little bit more information, if you don't know about it, the video that's playing right now will be linked in the comments below. Eventually, the amount of drama came to a point where I left. Then a few months later, when things really hit the fan, I rejoined because Hippie needed help. At that point, I'd become good friends with many of the staff, including the head clown man himself. And so I decided to do what I could to ease the situation. I rejoined with vigour, wanting to not have a true admin role per se, but act as a community manager. Even if I didn't have the title proper, it was how I presented myself. Once the station was back to full strength, those who had actually attempted to steal the server's player base for their own, and failed, were somehow allowed back on the team. I will remain vocal on how this was an awful decision. It was why I walked for the second and last time. The community didn't want them back as a whole. The staff? Overly vocal on not wanting them back. When I voiced the concerns of both the community and the staff, I was told that I was simply projecting my own opinion. And then, when they were allowed back, they were acting as though they owned the server. They were rude to the staff and community alike, and then actually attempted a coup for the server. A coup for a Space Station 13 server. Space Station 13 is at its core a very silly game. A very silly game that I love, but it's not a game I play anymore. Why? Because people take this shit way too seriously. This is a game where you can be turned into a clown, unable to do anything, horrendously disabled if a wizard chooses that spell. Where you can get traitors who do nothing but buy Cindy balloons and run around the corridors of the station naked. Where you can have a gravitational singularity and a dark god fight in the center of a destroyed station. Where ghosts can spin chairs. Because. And yet some people take it very seriously. To the point where they become awful human beings for it. To the point where they make power plays over who gets to run a station where, once again, 99% of the population finds fart funny. And at the same time, I can't help but look back fondly. I've made some fantastic friends through this game, one of whom I have to say is responsible for an awful lot of happiness in my life. Now, I won't bore you with the details, but let's just say if it wasn't for this game, I wouldn't be in a good place, at all. Thanks to the connections I've made through what was one of the wildest and most surreal gaming experiences of my life, I've actually found lasting happiness. Which is the silliest thing of all if you think about it.
Yeah, there we go. APC destroyed. Mission accomplished.